So hello, everybody. If this chair would go forward, this is gonna be my first video to the previous video that I was talking about, sharing my story with you guys. But I want to take you guys back to like way back, as into where I could first remember, and I'm gonna do the best to speak from my heart, to give you guys the real raw truth of my background and where I came from, that I went through my eyes, through my perception, my point of view. Because everybody sees things through different point of views. The people in my life will see things through different point of views, and there might be a lot of Lori, why are you doing this, and so on and so forth from other people of my family or the people that I'm going to be talking about. I feel like I might not mention any names. I feel like that's probably the best thing to do, is just things out of it in that aspect. The people who know. But yeah, let's begin. All right. So in the beginning, from what I remember as growing up, my parents were separated. I remember my mom or my dad in my life up until, I would say my mom up until I was 8 or 9. The same thing kind of with my dad, I guess you can say. They were never married. They just separated after, I don't know how long they were together, but so I have 2 siblings, I guess you can say. One is my older sister, the other is my younger brother, and then step sisters and 1 step brother. So on my dad, I have 2 stepsisters he never had kids with my stepmom, but those are her daughters, so they're my stepsisters. And mom and her husband, she had my stepsister and my stepbrother, which were not her kids, they were his kids, and then together they had my baby brother that passed away when he was, I believe, 9 months old. So that's that. But as I was growing up, I remember living with my grandma, and I guess my dad and my mom, my grandma had, like, in her house, my grandma and grandpa, they had a garage where we lived in. The whole garage was like a big room, right? Like a big room, and then it had the kitchen and a shower and a bathroom. And there I grew my dad's side, they're all Mexican, so I grew up with all my cousins. I just remember that as being my childhood, is going outside, playing kickball, playing soccer, and just being around, like just being outdoors, right? I think that's how we all grew up back then. It's just being outside and playing with your family. And my cousins, they live right next door to us, so that's how I remember that. It's just I would always walk to my cousins, and we would walk to school. I don't remember my parents ever being with us while walking to school, but so that's how I remember, like, my childhood. Then there was a lot of things that went on that my parents don't know about, that I feel like were leading to a certain lifestyle within myself, and confusion within myself, and growing up, which a lot of kids go through, is with that whole sex aspect. Because as a kid, you get really curious, and you want to know, like, what are these body parts and what do they do, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Or you might have certain thoughts in your head as a child. I see it with my kids nowadays, but that's a whole total different story. And I'm not talking about being lesbian or anything like that. I'm talking about just curiosity of what your body does and what your parts are, and certain curiosities happening within that whole time frame as being young. But yeah, in that whole child space, I remember it being really happy, very loving. I remember my grandma a lot. My grandma doing my hair, my grandma cooking for us, my grandma being my dad's mom, being that adult in my life. That's who I remember as being young up until I was 8. And then I remember my dad and my stepmom and my mom and my stepdad and so on and so forth from there moving forward. But I'll talk about that in another video. But as for this part of my life, that's what I remember. I remember just being happy, playing outside, playing they had in our backyard, because I grew up in San Jose, California, and in our backyard there was like a river. I remember going out there playing with my cousins, walking around, going to the park, and just having a good old time. And I feel like that's how the way that it should be, right? As you're a kid, the only thing is I really don't remember my mom or my dad being there, which kind of sucks, you know. That kind of sucks to not remember your parents. But my grandma was always loving, and she was always I remember my grandma calling me La Chilindrina, because La Chilindrina in Chavo del Ocho, it was an old like Mexican show. I have like underneath my makeup, I have like freckles, you know, and I have them all over my body, over my chest, over my back. I have tons of freckles on my butt, on my, you know what I mean? But in the show, they would put the Chilindrina's hair would be in pigtails, and she had like a lot of freckles. So yeah, but that's the beginning of my story, you guys, and stay tuned for more. I will be going into a lot of other things that have happened in my life, and as time progresses, and a lot of trauma that I went through as a kid, and that dictated a lot in what the decisions that I chose, and always looking for a void. I'm not looking for a void, but looking for somebody to love me, you know, from the absence of my parents, or even when having them in my life, of certain things that had happened, that I ended up taking certain directions and certain paths in my life that are now that I look at it, are a blessing now. But then it was really hard. It brought a lot of pain in my heart and in my mind, and to the people that were around me. Really destructive habits. But again, I'll go into that a little later. And I really pray that this message and what I'm going to be going through in these parts really help that woman or that young girl, who went through similar things that I did. I pray and that this helps you grow and to elevate and to heal, and know that the healing process is going to take time, and know that whatever you went through or whatever you're going through, you will overcome it. But it starts with you, and it starts with forgiving yourself and forgiving other people that hurt you and that weren't there, and that's only because of their pains and because of what they went through, and they didn't know how to live and to do certain things. Because also everybody goes through certain things, and your parents might have gone through certain things and didn't know how to deal with it the right proper way, and just did the best that they could, you know. So and once you get to a certain age, you choose your destiny. We create the life that we're going to create. So as this goes on, and as I continue these videos, I really pray that you look at this from an open mind and an open view, and come through this journey with me, of this beautiful journey. You know, life is still not perfect yet. It never will be perfect, but I am doing my best to create a beautiful life for myself and my children. So, yeah, until next time, talk to you guys soon.